Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. David, I ask you every week, so I'm curious, this week, anything new?
Well, there's always stuff that's new, just staying extremely busy lately, which is good. And I don't know what to tell you that's new. It's been a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I told you that Amy, my daughter, is now has a job. She's has enjoyed the work, has joined the workforce, I should say.
Congratulations, Amy.
She's working as a camera operator in the field for a local news station. So it's pretty cool.
Great. They're in Florida?
Yeah, in Fort Myers. And we get to go on TV every day and see her work. It's just kind of cool.
Ooh, cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if the audience knows, but like when Deconstructing Data first got started, she was part of the production on the back end with some of the work we were doing here. So, then she went to the same school you did in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Which one was it?
Rochester Institute of Technology, film production major.
Yep. Awesome. So cool. It's been fun just paying attention to her journey and watching you as a proud parent. My kid just started school this week. So, I'll be there before I know it.
Yeah, it goes fast. That's for sure.
Definitely. And collecting as much data from parents like you it makes the experience a little more understandable. But speaking of data, we have another great conversation planned for today. And today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome Kamal Maheshwari, co-founder of Decube. Let me bring him in. Welcome, Kamal.
Hello, excited. Thank you for having me, Jesse and David.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on the show today, Kamal, and we're going to ask you to kick it off for those of our listeners and viewers that are not familiar with you and Decube. Why don't you give us a little bit of background? Tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to co-found Decube.
Certainly. So, like I said, welcome listeners and viewers. My journey as a co-founder of Decube took an interesting journey. I've been in the data space for many, many years. In fact, all of my professional life, and I have seen many changes along the way. One thing that continues to be painful is that many people don't trust their data or didn't trust their data, and they still don't. That's when we realized there is a problem to be solved. And we started Decube to actually solve what I believe, and I'm convinced, is the holy grail for data, which is to build trust in data.
So that's great. That's excellent. It's something we talk about a lot with our customers as well as with respect to data quality, for example. So love the journey and would love to sort of jump right into the first topic. Talk to us about building trust through data quality.
Absolutely. So as I've been scouring, talking to data leaders, data community, our customers, the thing that we realized, data trust is an issue, but you have to look at what causes this trust or distrust. And it turns out that it is not just a single dimensional problem. So data quality absolutely is a large part of the data trust, but also data discovery. I mean, imagine yourself using some data to make critical decisions about your business, your life, anything. There's always at the back of your mind, you're feeling like there could be something wrong with this data. And that feeling is coming from not knowing where this data came from, the source of the data, the journey, where has it been, who else has touched it, what have they done to it. So a lot of those, how do people define same type of data differently, and which one's right, which one's not? That's one dimension. So just discovering, defining, knowing what this data represents, where it comes from, and the journey. The other aspect that we found to be very critical is the governance of data. So again, people who have access to data, why do they have access? From a compliance and regulatory purposes, is the data that they have access to properly masked, hashed, whatever, right? So they're not able to see PII and data that they shouldn't be seeing. And the third the dimension is certainly the quality and observability, which has been a problem as long as the data has existed. And people have solved it in multiple different ways. But as data keeps evolving, the volume, the variety, different use cases, now suddenly everybody's running after AI and LLM. So everybody will understand this. If you expect trustable outcome from your AI and LLM efforts, guess what you need to do first? You need to focus on your data being trustworthy, trustable. That is the only fuel that engine takes.
Yeah, you're so right. And these are common problems that a lot of companies are dealing with today. Nobody really knows how to tackle some of these problems, right? I mean, it's there's some data when it comes to data quality that it's very clear and it gets very easy to say what's good and what's not. But there's sometimes it's difficult to tell just looking at the data. Data could have come from a source, and that source may have not been truthful with the data.
Exactly.
Right. And so now you're trusting that the data came from the source, but if the source isn't trustworthy, and look, the source could be a company, but the source could be a person too. I mean, people lie about their data, right?
Yeah.
People fill out a form and they put junk in a form,
Yep.
and you think that it's valid, but what if it's not? And so there's a lot of difficulty, and I know a lot of people are starting to use AI to try to make some of that determinations, right? So how are you dealing with some of these issues with your clients with respect to data quality?
Yeah, so David, I think the data quality as a field has been around for a while. I mean, there are companies, 15, 20-year-old companies now that have been doing data quality. The problem is, as the data, the use cases have changed, data generation volumes have changed, the way we've been solving data quality problems is not enough. We have to elevate the data quality problem to be more data observability problem. And what does that include? Well, it certainly includes all of the things, what I call static data checks. Is this string? Is this value? Is this within the guardrails of these values, and so on and so on? But also now, is this data fresh? Is it accurate? Is it consistent? Did I get all the data that I needed? All of those anomalies, just automated anomaly detection, because with data, one thing is for certain, it's never at rest, and it's always moving, always something changing. So to bring all of those pieces into a solution is what's needed. So that's the whole space of data observability, elevated data quality. What we're doing is actually elevating this process, the whole problem of data trust. And that's when I said data quality and observability is certainly one dimension of it. Knowing data, discovering and defining and glossary is one. And the governance of that for data from the access perspective, right users, right data being available to them for compliance and regulatory purposes. So we like to look at it as a solution that requires multiple these dimensions. In fact, very proud that when we started Decube, we are the first data trust platform. A lot of people are starting to talk about data trust because it clearly is important, but they still talk about it in their own sort of domain. If they're talking data quality, then they think quality is the most important thing for data trust. If they're doing governance, that's the most important thing. Just like a lot of cataloging and discovery data discovery vendors, they would say, "Oh yeah, that's where the biggest problem is." But I'm here to tell viewers and our community that data trust is an elevated solution to a problem that has existed for way too long, and now we do have means to solve it.
That's really interesting. And speaking of solving it, could you talk to us a little bit about that, transitioning into the second topic, which is solving data management challenges, hopefully to help build that trust that you're alluding to, and then the unified approach of Decube. Could you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Absolutely. From day one, we are passionate. We are all data practitioners that started Decube. We talked to a lot of data leaders, data community, and we realized that the legacy best of breed tech stacks have caused more harm than good. What I mean by that is these tech stacks, in the name of best of breed, require a lot of resources in acquiring, integrating, in managing, maintaining, right? And still, they remain disconnected. One could be evolving in a direction where many people want. The others may not be catching up to that. We certainly feel, and we've seen a strong response from the community and our customers, that having these core capabilities, the data discovery, data observability, and data governance in a single unified platform helps with many of those challenges that the legacy tech stack has created and caused and continue to in that sense.
Yeah, I think I see your point there. When we look at all of the different data platforms that exist today, there's, the platforms really evolve around managing the data, but not truly about discovery, governance, and quality. And so all of those seem to be sort of outside factors unrelated to the management of the data. And to your point, if we can have a system that, by way of managing the data, we're also managing the discovery and governance and quality of it, then you're bringing kind of all of the most important factors into a single platform. Am I understanding this correctly?
Absolutely. I think by virtue of the fact that I've been in this space for so long, I think the data management, data storage, these issues or these problems have been solved for a fairly long time. Every data management system, for example, whether it's database, data lake, data warehouse, they all have figured out. In fact, nobody even knows or needs to know how the data is really stored. You use some sort of a SQL or some kind of a interface. You send data, store it, update it, create whatever, and it's available for you to then use via either query language or any such interface, right? What we are trying to bring to the community and to the customers is much more consumable aspect to this data trust. What do I mean by that? So there could easily be number of data metric KPIs that the quality, observability, governance people may track. Accuracy is one, completeness maybe another, something, right? These KPIs are not truly consumable. Just because somebody says this data is complete, now doesn't mean you can trust it. There's so many other things that could not be coming together for it to be trusted. What we are bringing, and that's one of the reasons why I say we are the first data trust platforms, we are bringing and culminating these KPIs into a unified data trust score. So now that gives you a very easy comparable between two data assets, for example. If one data asset has 92 data trust score, another has 97, well, then based on the way these trust scores were derived, 97 trust score is absolutely more trustworthy than the 92. So it's really, I'm so passionate that the consumers of data, could be your business executive, could be data analyst, business analyst, and now, of course, even AI ML models, they are consumers.
Yeah.
Those points of consumption, call it people and machines and so on, should be making decisions based on very measurable metric and a kind of a single consumable score. A very, very new concept, but we're very excited to bring it to our customers, and they love that level of simplicity.
Yeah, I love this. To be honest with you, it is, something that our team has built into our platform because, for us, all of what you're talking about is extremely important to us as a data platform. It's important for us to know where the data is coming from. It's so important for us to know who, manage who has access to it and know when it's been touched.
Yep.
And understand the quality of that data coming in. So we have built kind of our own mechanism for scoring data when it comes into our platform. Of course, nothing like what you're talking about that's universal and can help other companies with different types of data. But I'm a big supporter of what you're talking about because, in our industry, when we're talking about providing data for brands and advertisers and marketers, it's important for us to be able to feel, and for our clients to be able to feel comfortable and that they understand that where the data is coming from and where it's, the level of quality of it and so on. So we've built a lot of what you're talking about into our platform. But, I can see, because of having experienced that with the literally trillions of data sets, signals that we see per month, the level of importance of doing that for other companies so that they can achieve sort of the same goals that we have, having built something ourselves, because not everybody can build it themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think we constantly evaluate buy versus build, and I'm constantly surprised, shocked when people tend to take the direction of building when they do not have the resources, they don't have the domain expertise, and that's not their core business.
Yeah.
Focus on your core business. So another example I'll give you why data trust score is becoming even more important. We've all heard about data marketplaces and data share mechanisms. So Snowflake has their own marketplace, Databricks has their own marketplace. More and more data is being now made available for partners and sharing via this mechanism. Now imagine in a marketplace, you're out there looking for some foot traffic, geographic data, because you're talking about opening a storefront, for example. And 3 different sets are available from 3 different companies. Which one are you going to choose? Today, if you didn't have any way to compare, you might just go with some reviews and possibly whichever is cheapest. But as we know in life, it's not the most trusted thing may not be the cheapest thing, or vice versa even, right? Mm-hmm. So with a mechanism to score them and have it available to the consumer, 93, 92, 89, well, they can at least know that if they go with 89 for whatever reason, then you are compromising or balancing. Maybe you pay half the price, but you get a little less trust. But at least you're making these decisions with the knowledge, data-driven decisions. So I think that's what our conviction comes in from, that this is already becoming important, and it will continue to become important for next many years as the AI ML or LLM start to become common part of our daily lives.
Yeah, no, I love that and I love the idea of being able to build a trust score into these platforms, because we're often in that exact place, where we're in these platforms and people might find our data in a marketplace and they're comparing it to someone else's. To your point, can you even trust the reviews, right?
Yeah.
Because often, like if you look at G2 or something like that, people are paid for reviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
So often it's like, I don't know how much you can trust the reviews. And so if I'm a data buyer going into there, it's like, what am I looking at? Am I looking at the reviews? Am I looking at the price? A lot of times what it comes down to is testing the data. And then you have to go through exhaustive test process. And so, and that's costly for especially for the data buyer. That process can take time, and it takes their engineering resources to do the tests as well.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
And
I
so
think, I mean, why should the buyers be doing it when it's really should be the provider's responsibility?
Yeah. So to that point, having a universal trust score, I'd love it. I think that's a place I'd like to see us get to, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And we will continue to work with the data leaders, community, our customers, partners to arrive at that. But that is the ideal outcome that we're heading towards. We are taking at least first step to it.
Awesome. Jesse, you're on mute.
Oh, of course. I was saying that's really great. And I love the whole concept. I think we could probably spend another 10 minutes just talking about it. The next topic is trends in streaming, data mesh, data contracts, and Kafka observability. Can never say the word. But, sort of transitioning into that, is there anything else you might add on the topic of a trust score?
Absolutely. So I think one of the part of establishing trust in data is about formalizing the expectations. So as a producer, I know what data I work with, I build, I bring, I generate, kind of the general characteristics of it and so on. As a consumer, I know what I need, what I want, what helps me make decisions, this and that, right? It would be nice if those two parties, and when I say parties, it doesn't have to be two people, it's just the two teams, it could be apps, whatever, right? Should be able to establish a formalized way of saying, I promise to give you this level of trust of data. And as it perhaps things happen, things change, certain unexpected anomalies creep in, if that's breached, the consumer should know about it. And it's not a legal fight basis, it's more that, hey, but it affects my business. I should at least know that if there is a breach of that data contract, I should not use it to make some big business decisions. So that's one part of data contract that's clearly important. Data mesh, obviously, many people have talked about data mesh. It's been going around for a few years. Jhamak brought it as a concept. It still remains as somewhat of a data architecture pattern. And now people are starting to build some capabilities around it. One of the things that I wanted to emphasize here is because we are a unified, innovative platform, bringing some of these innovations, data contract, data mesh, domains, data product, these new and emerging areas which people are really finding useful are much easier for us to build into our platform. Unless otherwise, we will have to rely and wait and be dependent on yet another platform that needs to develop and build and evolve that. And of course, for customers, more cost, more management, more training, more integration. It's just simply not a good model. I mean, we arrived here after so many years, not anybody's fault, but because as we were going through this different use cases, technology wasn't evolved enough. Initially, the data quality that the early vendors started offering was the only thing available. So if you had a lot of data or any data that you needed to do something about the quality, there were only two choices there. Now there's a plethora of innovations happening, and bringing it into a unified platform with these innovations completely is doable and makes sense. On the topic of Kafka observability, I actually want to bring the viewers a separation of when you hear about Kafka observability with many other vendors, what they're really talking about is the Kafka cluster health, the topic, the lag between the leader and the other consumers, and so on. More infrastructure level, what we're talking about here is treat the Kafka data just like any other data. Look at the data that flows through the Kafka topics. Build some kind of a structure or organization catalog out of it, those topics, and then apply the same rules for data quality on that data as you do on any other data. So that is a huge differentiation from what we bring into Kafka observability versus what I've seen other places that have had what they claimed as Kafka observability.
Yeah, and I think to your point of data quality, I think it needs to be universally defined as well.
Yep.
Because you have the challenge of one company defining quality in one way, even though it's the same data set, and another company defining quality in another way.
Yep.
And then how do you make sure that you're measuring or comparing apples to apples when it comes to quality?
Exactly. I think that's why I really feel and happy to obviously argue, debate, to be convinced that we believe data trust is the elevation of the things that we now understand about data, what is important, what needs to be measured, observed, discovered, all of that, but in much more of a consumable, uniform way.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. There's a company out there called TruthSet. Have you heard of them?
Not yet.
Okay, so the challenge that I had with TruthSet, and I challenged them on this, is that the way that they determine what is quality is based on consensus. And so the idea was that, let's just say I have a data set of names and addresses, just as an example.
Yep.
I provide the names and addresses to them. They compare that to the names and addresses of others, data sets. And then they come back and say, based on the consensus, this one company has a greater number of records that are in sort of this control group, and therefore they get a higher ranking, and you get a lower ranking, and then you get a lower ranking because of the number of assets or records that you had that matched the others.
Yep.
Well, what happens when each one of them has an invalid record? Right?
Yep.
So if they all have an invalid record, it's looked at, TruthSet says it's correct because there's consensus. And so my argument to them was that there's so much bad data that's out there that if the bad data is being held by multiple companies, and multiple companies are sharing that data into this consortium to get a measurable truth set, then all of a sudden you have all these bad records that are being referenced towards what looks like the truth. And then those companies that have those bad records actually get a higher score. So that's just a perfect example of how you can't just look at consensus to determine quality. Like you have to have a much sort of deeper mechanism in determining what is quality and what's not quality, and consensus just doesn't do it.
Absolutely. And another quick example, I know we're perhaps a little short on time, but today a lot of companies don't just use data that they generate. They also acquire data from outside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you do that, it's even more important that you know whether you can trust this data or not. Because that data combined with your own data will come to your consumers for them to make business decisions, could affect hundreds of millions of dollars. And it has happened. It is not a hypothetical case.
Mm-hmm.
One of the credit bureaus a couple of years ago botched their algorithm using data that they collect from various different places. And millions of people were given wrong credit score, which meant they couldn't buy the car, the washing machine, the house, or whatever they were wanting to or needing to. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Wow. That is wild. All of it is really interesting, especially the part that you were explaining, David, about how, the machines, they're machines, they're not human, right? They're not looking at the consensus as just the positives. They're also looking at the negatives. So sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, but it's certainly really interesting. I am curious, Kamal. Tech stack is something we ask all of the guests on deconstructing data. So what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack?
Yeah, so as a software provider or solution company, we use components like Rust and TypeScript and so on for building the application. But what I think the viewers are more interested in what we hear more from our customers. And clearly, they are more and more moving towards the cloud. So any of the clouds that we support, but also things like data will come in some sort of a landing zone or data lake, S3, ADLS, GCS, whatever buckets. From there, it then goes onto a journey with transformation, curation into some kind of a data warehouse, BigQuery, Snowflake, Redshift, Databricks, and so on. And ultimately then be ready for consumption by tools like BI tools, Power BI, Sigma, Tableau, and all that. So as a software person, as a trying to build this unification around trust, we tend not to favor one over the other, but that seems to be what I see most: cloud and these cloud native solutions that are being adopted more and more.
That's interesting. Good answers. So what about in terms of just like the everyday tools that keep your team, functioning? We hear a lot of things like Slack or email, anything like that you're willing to share?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's probably no secret. Majority of the companies probably use Slack or Microsoft Teams, right? So we certainly support that, use that. Figma, Notion, some of the design tools, right? And I mean, we ourselves use Google suite of products, so for email and chat and sharing. So we love it. I think very easy to get started, and really a productivity gain for us.
It's good stuff. Yeah. I don't know. Did we hear any tools there that we haven't heard before, David? I think probably some of the, Decube. We haven't heard Decube mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, but Figma, Notion, Slack, well, those are all common. Yeah, everybody uses them.
Decube needs to and will become a common tool in people's tool chest when it comes to data ecosystem. Absolutely. We are confident about it. We know we are solving a big problem, and we will certainly work with the community. We're not doing it in vacuum here. A lot of early customers giving us feedback, partners, community leaders. They're all wanting to get to this unified way of establishing trust in their data.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like the title. So you're going to decube them, basically. Is that
Yeah, that actually, I didn't think about that. Make it a verb. Yes.
Yeah, I guess you
Decube today.
definitely animate it. But you've already shared so much. But in closing a little bit, Kamal, would you like to tell listeners a little bit more about Decube and who you help, how you help them, and how they could find you if they want to work with you?
Absolutely. So we are certainly very easy to find. Decube.io is our website. Have a very good active presence on LinkedIn. You can find me, my founders, other team members there. The people that are really finding our solution attractive, at least the early customers, we are very much getting a large traction in FinServ, telco, e-commerce, and retail. So those are four major industry segments that we are seeing a lot of early adoption. Now, that's not to say that healthcare is not too far behind, and many other manufacturing and others will start to see benefit. But I think these early industries, telco, FinServ, have lots and lots of data, a lot of regulatory compliance things that they need to worry about. You probably both heard $140 some million fine on Citibank recently because they can't manage their data properly. I mean, really, in this day and age, such a large company, we are trusting them with our money, and we can't trust them with our data. So I think that is just, it's bound to happen. People, 15 or so years ago, as I was coming from more on the tech side, really building and developing database engines and so on, to more customer-facing sales, pre-sales, and so on. What I realized, the application developers at that time were pushing the security to, we'll figure this out later. And now, even 5 years ago, security has to be talked about first. I think the data quality and trust is going through the same sort of a phase. Everybody understands it. Everybody thinks it's important, and not many are prioritizing it yet. But sooner or later, you just cannot ignore it.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. Well,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Kamal, it's been great having you on the show. We really appreciate you joining us today. And Jesse, I'll close this out.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, Jesse and David. One thing I was thinking, one thing I can leave the viewers with. So essentially, my advice is focus on the foundation, keep it simple and strong.
Yeah, I like that. And this whole time I was kind of thinking too, we used to talk about data culture a lot. And so I was thinking, like, how does data trust fit in data culture? Because it would be, you were talking about having trust at the forefront.
Yeah.
But yeah, all great pillars. Thank you so much for adding some more great data insights to the Deconstructing Data series. And of course, audience members, remember that you can build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement when you get powered by BDEX. So just imagine using the power of AI to create audiences that truly resonate with your brand. We want to bring you closer to your marketing goals, and we're eager to guide you. Just visit bdex.com. Of course, I'll pull up the handy QR code here. So if you are watching on video, you can just scan the QR code. It'll take you to the BDEX website. and you're going to want to click Talk to an Expert to get powered by BDEX. And for those of you who might be curious about deconstructing data, we are looking at sponsorship opportunities and understanding our audience more. So if you would like to get in on those stats, we'd love to share them with you. And you can also email us if you're interested in the sponsorships, but also if you know anyone else who might make a great guest on the show. A lot of the time, some of our best guests are recommended by people who are listening to the show. So keep the recommendations coming. Just reach out to us at info@bdex.com and share your qualitative data with us so we can make this better for you. And thank you so much again, Kamal, and also to our audience. And hope you'll have a great week.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kamal.